Hey, welcome to Satisfy Personal Finance. Today I'm going to talk about CPF Accrued Interest, which I think is one of the most misunderstood personal finance matter in Singapore. And I hope to clarify the matter as well as throw in a very unique perspective that I've not seen any other financial site or blogger elaborate on. So hopefully it'll be enlightening to people who are wondering what CPF Accrued Interest is about and whether or not you should use your CPF to fund your property purchase. So what exactly is CPF Accrued Interest? Now, when we use our CPF OA to buy our homes, there is actually a opportunity cost of 2.5% per annum, right? So instead of earning 2.5% sitting in your OA account, it has been used to pay your mortgage and therefore did not earn the 2.5%. So when you sell your property in future, CPF accrued interest is actually the amount that you have to top up to match the amount that was lost as a result of not sitting in the OA earning 2.5%. So for example, if you use $100,000 to fund your property, right, in 5 years at 2.5%, it will come out to about $113,000. So the extra $13,000 is actually the accrued interest. And when you sell a property, you actually have to put back that amount. Now, a lot of people think that is something that's bad and a downside of CPF accrued interest. But I beg to differ. I feel that CPF accrued interest is actually more of a feature than a downside, as some anti-government activists have painted it to be. It's quite understandable why people think that this is quite bad because it's called interest.
디스커스팅한 냄새가 나요.
And you don't like to pay interest because it gives you a sense of you're actually paying more than you owe someone, and therefore people think that this is something that's not good. But let's compare it to using your CPF OA to invest in stocks. Let's say you take the same $100,000 and you invest in your stocks. What happens is that you don't have accrued interest in that sense. Okay, so if your $100,000 become $150,000 or it drops to $50,000, there's actually no need for you to top up the difference because there's no such accrued interest feature, unlike in property. Now, let's say we invest $100,000 into stocks and compare it to using $100,000 to buy property. After 5 years, let's say they have appreciated by 5% each. Both will give you about $127,000 after the end of 5 years. Let's say you liquidate the entire portfolio of stocks, all $127,000 goes back to your CPF OA account and the story ends there. Now, for the money you use for your property purchase, what happens is that you will have to refund back the CPF amount that you withdraw, $100,000, plus the accrued interest of about $13,000, and then the remaining amount you can actually take as cash profit. This is something that is not present in the stocks scenario because there's no such thing as CPF accrued interest for stocks and shares. So as you can see, you can actually get profits in cash from your CPF property investment, which is something unique only to property purchase because CPF accrued interest only applies to property purchase using CPF and does not apply to other investments like stocks and shares. So CPF accrued interest is actually a feature that allows you to get cash profits from your CPF savings. Hey, if you like my stuff, press the like button and thank you for keeping my channel going. And at the end of the day, the amount that you pay back to your CPF account can also be used for your next property purchase. So is it really an interest that is paid to someone else? I beg to differ. Of course, some people will call it double payment. I don't know why and how they can calculate to that extent. And CPF rules are so convoluted and numerous that I know of very intelligent people who also misunderstood and thought that the accrued interest actually goes to CPF or something instead of going back to the account, right? So it's a very misunderstood feature of the CPF account. Now, on the flip side, what happens if the investment actually doesn't do well and actually decreases in value? For stocks and shares, if your $100,000 has dropped to $50,000, ouch, right? All $50,000 are put back into your OA and that's the end of the story. For property purchase, it's a very different story. Let's say you bought the condo at $1 million with $100,000 from your CPF account and the condo drops to $900,000. What happens then is when you sell the property, you will have to put back $113,000 into your CPF OA account, and then the remaining you'll get in cash, which is less than what you have put in. So this feels like a loss because you actually take back less cash than you have put in. Essentially, any impact resulting from losses arising from property investment is felt entirely by your cash because the CPF will have acted like nothing has happened and it has grown in your account at 2.5%. In a stagnant market where you sold the property for the exact same price you bought it for 5 years ago, what happens is that you still have to put back the $130,000 into your CPF OA, and therefore the amount you receive in cash will not be the same as what you have put in originally, and therefore accrued interest was actually paid out from the cash component of your investment. I think it's worth saying that we live in Singapore and property market tends to go up. Of course, not to say that all property investments will definitely appreciate in value, alright, but I think the situation where your property price drops a lot is not something that is very common in Singapore. Even in this scenario, accrued interest is not something that you pay on top of whatever mortgage interest that you are paying. Essentially, it is to protect your CPF account from absorbing the loss, and your CPF OA money still belongs to you. You can use it for retirement, you can use it for your next property. So it is not an additional interest. It's just that now your cash has suffered the entire loss of your property investment going haywire. So should you be using your CPF for your housing? I feel like it depends on your investment choices. If you're someone who has cash just idling in your bank and you're not using that for investments, then please use your cash to pay for your mortgage instead, because your CPF at least grows 2.5% sitting there doing nothing. But if you're someone who has good use for the cash, let's say you want to invest, and CPF OA limits your investment choices quite a lot, so you can't use it for a lot of robo-advisors. You definitely cannot use it for Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. So if you have good use for your cash, then by all means use your CPF to fund your property purchase, and don't worry about accrued interest, because I think that is not something that is a downside. In any case, I think most of us will use our CPF anyway for our housing because we are not that cash rich. So it's not like we have much of a choice, but I would like to dispel the notion that it is something negative to use your CPF for your housing, as some people might like to position it because of some vested interests. In conclusion, CPF accrued interest actually allows you to get cash profit from your CPF property investment, which is something unique only to property. Whereas for downward markets and stagnant markets, unfortunately the cash part of your property investment will suffer the impact of losses, or the fact that you have to top up the accrued interest to your CPF account, whereas your CPF OA account is now preserved for your next property purchase or your retirement needs. So some people say that it's a neutral thing, not really good or bad, but because I feel that property prices tend to go upwards, I would say that this is actually something that is beneficial overall, rather than the downside that it has been painted out to be. I hope this video was helpful to you. If you found it useful, please drop me a like. If you have some suggestions for room of improvement or any questions, please leave it in the comments below. And if you want to help me out further, please go to satisfy.com/deals. You can get some sweet sign-up deals for yourself. Some of the deals take only like 2 minutes to complete. As usual, subscribe to my Telegram for more content and great deals, and I'll see you next video.